Hi Phil, great to speak to you today. Obviously, speaking to president, president of Future Faces, myself, and yourself being president of Sutton Coldfield Chambers of Commerce. Just thought it'd be really great to have a chat about how things are going, what impact the pandemic's had on younger people, and how that's affected you in your business area. So,
Yeah, sure.
firstly, how's it all going for you?
Yeah, I think we're fortunate in a way with the business that I'm in. We're a video production agency, so we're in a bit of a growth market anyway. So the pandemic has made the need for digital grow even stronger. So whereas a lot of businesses have really struggled, we've come through quite well. We have had some bumps along the road, which I think most companies would say they've had. Um, the major one for us was back last year when the first lockdown occurred. We couldn't go out filming anymore, whereas that's the lifeblood of us bringing footage back to the edit suite to actually put together into a final film. So we did have to adapt in terms of the offering. So we were offering more animation. We were doing things like editing Zoom conversations and trying to make them more professional. So with graphics and cutaway shots, but instead of going out and getting an interview recorded, we would then use the Zoom footage. So we had to adapt, but we were more fortunate than most, I believe, during the pandemic.
Okay. And obviously, you've got a young workforce. Obviously, Graham is on the Future Faces committee with myself. So, how has it been overseeing quite a young workforce in that sense?
Yeah. So Art Media's got a team of 9 people, and I think 7 out of the 9 are under 32. So maybe 6 out of the 9 are under 30. So I think the pandemic's challenges that created, particularly in the lockdown scenarios, was that a lot of people of my age and above, perhaps they had a home office or a space in their house where they could be quite comfortable to work from home. And actually, there were some joys in working from home. But what I tended to find happened with a lot of the young people in the business is they potentially are still living with their parents. They had got just their own bedroom. So a lot of the time on Zoom, you could see the bed behind them. I think actually what we identified quite early was that it was causing a lot more stress for younger people than perhaps it was for sort of slightly older people because of the environment that they were being asked to work in. And I still believe firmly that as we come out of 2021 and beyond, mental health is definitely going to be one of the biggest legacies of the pandemic for a lot of people. It's really caused a lot of damage in that way. So I think it's just really important as a business owner to focus on the whole breadth of our staff. So it wasn't just a case of, right, well, that's it. We're just going to put everyone on Zoom and work remotely. We needed to be able to flex as best we could within the rules to make sure we were looking after the younger members of staff particularly.
That really resonates to me when you say about not so much living with parents, but a lot of people as young professionals, when they move out of their home, they tend to move into flats and smaller places before they move on to bigger houses. We're in a 2-bedroom flat in city centre in Birmingham, currently in my guest bedroom, but we had to get rid of the bed because there wasn't room for a bed and a desk. So no, we can't have, well, we're not allowed guests over really anyway, but we can't have anyone come over and stay really now. So that's impacted us in that sense. But definitely resonates on other levels as well. I'm obviously really fortunate working for Santander. They've actually won an award this year with Working Families, which is a work-life balance charity in the UK, and they won an award for Best Company for Mental Health and Wellbeing. Obviously, it's a big company, but that means that they have access to trained psychologists on mental well-being apps and webinars and guided meditations and flexible working. But it's fabulous to hear that as a smaller company, there's still so much going on and so much support and a lot of awareness on mental well-being as well. I'm definitely very passionate about going forwards, all the talk on mental health not just being spoken about as a negative, because we talk about physical health and being in good health, etc. I think it's just important with the mental side, so it's really great to hear that. Is there anything that you would suggest to other employers about returning to the workplace? Obviously, being a smaller team, you've got the benefit of being able to bring people back and distance people. But with this talk of Freedom Day, which is a term I very much am against, because I think people might go a little bit crazy. But from 19th of July, with things opening up more, is there anything that you've seen works really well, or maybe doesn't work so well, and advice you could give around that?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things we've done quite a lot of in the pandemic is produce video content about returning to work, because I think that the one of the key stats that we pulled out during the pandemic was a lot of people are very mistrusting of whether their bosses or the organisations they work with would care enough about them. So actually, what we've been trying to do to help some of our clients is to make content that will show what the workplace looks like. So it almost takes away that sting of, right, I'm just going to turn up at work and this is what it's going to be. So effectively, it's like creating a package where you can see, this is what it'll be like, this is how it'll all be laid out, this is the expectations, this is where this is where that is. So I think that's been quite a useful thing to produce for people. But I think it's just perhaps making sure people are comfortable and they're open and they feel like they've got the right support to be able to talk about what they're feeling. I think a lot of it is in communication. It is how you sort of pass those messages on to your staff, whether it's in the form of video or briefings or even Zoom conversations beforehand. But it just has to be well communicated so that people feel comfort with that.
In terms of communication and language used then, I know right at the start of the pandemic, there was a lot of talk about how young people were to blame. They were the ones spreading it. They needed to stay at home. Obviously, a lot of key workers are young people. A lot of young people were volunteering as NHS volunteers, helping with vaccinations, etc. Do you think that maybe language and communication needs to change around that, especially with talk of people who are double vaccinated can do this, won't have to do that, and obviously we're sort of later to receive those vaccinations? Is that something you think you've noticed from sort of the business side that needs to change?
I think it's definitely at the moment. It's a tricky subject to broach because why should the demographic that are perhaps slightly less at threat by the virus but to be then the ones that are affected more as we move forward because they're not double vaccinated and are capable of necessarily going on a holiday or getting access to a venue. So I think it's definitely something that should be considered, what the best steps going forward are in terms of making everything COVID secure. I guess the answer there to some degree is that everyone should get as double jabbed as quick as they can. In a way, it is a timing thing that perhaps by September, October, everyone can have at least had the option of having the double vaccination, and then if they chose not to, then that's their sort of personal choice. But I think with what we offer as a video company, we have to be cautious to it. We still will be using PPE after the Freedom Day, as it's called, because I think the government are trying to say be personally responsible, and obviously from a business point of view, be business responsible. So I think if they're putting the onus back onto the individual and then the company, you still have to have that level of common sense, and I think that's what we'll definitely be doing. But I certainly wouldn't feel comfortable to push people to have the jab if they don't feel they want it. What's your view on that? What do you think about that?
Well, was very keen to get the vaccination and waiting till 30s and unders could actually go for it. Then had a lot of stress and anxiety because I've got allergies and I couldn't find the answers online as to whether I could have this jab, whether there's a different one I should be having over this. Initially they were saying to go for AstraZeneca because that's better for people with allergies, and then there was the update saying if you're under 40 we don't recommend the AstraZeneca. the GPs had about as much information as I could find, and the team at Millennium Point were absolutely fantastic. When I went for my first vaccine, I had a paramedic right there on standby just to be sure, and was actually quite excited yesterday that I managed to bring my second vaccine forward by a few weeks. So as of start of August, I'll be double vaccinated. But yeah, definitely one of those. I think it's a brilliant thing that we've got this vaccination program going, and I think things are starting to look up. Just really hopeful that when things reopen, this is an actual reopen, and we don't go back to maybe not square one, but square two. One last question really for me, I think, is there anything you've noticed skill-wise that your workforce might have needed to gain, particularly during this sort of period? I don't know if you've tried to hire anyone, had to do remote interviews, or is there anything sort of missing?
There's a couple of things there. I mean, I think the one thing skill-wise that we found during the pandemic is creativity is curtailed by using Zoom. It's really hard to have creative meetings. That little idea or spark of an idea that might happen, it doesn't come as naturally on Zoom as it would do in a room. So as a creative business, that's why we sort of actively tried to return to the office a bit earlier than perhaps other industries may, because we felt we needed to be able to have that part of our process work for us. In terms of the recruitment side of things, one of the things I've observed over the last couple of months really is it does seem like there's a bit of a developing issue of finding the right people for jobs. And I don't think that's just particularly with video production. I think that goes across a lot of different sectors that, and again, I don't actually know the answer to this, but there does seem to be something that has changed in the marketplace whereby you're either not getting as many applications or perhaps the quality's not where it used to be. So I think there is actually quite a bit of work to be done in the coming years. And I know the Sutton Chamber, we will be trying to help as best we can with Future Faces and within the Sutton Chamber itself to try to bring through young people and do more projects that are helping to sort of upskill. Because it does feel to me like it does feel that little bit harder to recruit.
So for those school leavers, is it a case of the CV could be stronger if there's things on there that maybe they have done but haven't put on there? Is that something that maybe has been missed because of not being in education, having that guidance?
Yeah, there's certainly a lot of lost opportunities within the last few years of particularly 16 to 18-year-olds. Maybe they would have done more work experience that's been curtailed because they couldn't go to companies' offices or, in our world, like going on shoots and stuff. So there will be a bit of a gap in that side of things, even if they have been given sort of centre assessed grades rather than doing exams. There will be bits of skills and opportunity that are missing because of the pandemic.
And hopefully they're all skills that Future Faces can help young people.
Yeah, definitely. And we're big advocates of Future Faces. Graham, who works in our team, he's on the committee of Future Faces, and we've got some really good people that have come through the apprenticeship route over the last few years. The young editor that we brought through 4 years ago is now, he's an amazing editor and he's only 21. He's far ahead of the curve than perhaps if he'd have gone down the university route. And then we've got a guy who's just about to finish his apprenticeship who will qualify as a cameraman and will stay with us. So as a business, we're really loyal to our apprentices as well. So we've had 5 apprentices over the last 5 years, and all 5 of them still work within the business. So, and they're seeing really good developments and are doing some really good work. And I've even managed to convince my team to do a charity skydive for the Sutton Chamber's Charity of the Year, which is the YMCA in Sutton Coldfield. So everybody in our team's been raising money. And I think that's just a great thing for us all to do as a team, coming out of the lockdown and the sort of pandemic as much as we are, and a good team bonding exercise to sort of really, try to build those bridges that perhaps when you're working on Zoom they just don't exist. So that should be an interesting experience. Good
luck with that. Rather you than me, but I do hope there's a cameraman who can film it all, so we can watch it afterwards.
Absolutely.
No, thank you so much for speaking to you today, Phil. It's been really, really insightful. Hopefully we can work together more with future faces events. Looking
Yeah.
forward to the annual awards. I know some of your team have gone for it.
Yeah.
So thank you very much, and hopefully speak to you soon.
Yeah. No, thank you.